Oh, we live? Cool. Let's jump into some real news. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the Resistance. Y'all have now tuned into another Resistance live stream. It's Friday night, y'all. We're going to get into it. Friday night facts. Hey, you know what? Real quick, let's jump into a quick cop check real quick. This was a little Friday night stroll for me a couple hours ago. Seen some police activity, so I decided to record. There's actually two situations going on. There's an ambulance call and also a 911 call for police. So actually, the call for this was kind of like a disturbance call. The neighbor complained about another roomie because that's a rooming house right there. Another roomie, he claims, trashed his room. So the police are there investigating that situation. And I'm gonna fast forward real quick, get into the quick cop check. Nothing major, ladies and gentlemen, but I just had to make things be clear. So this is the guy that they have detained. That's the guy that lives in the rooming house who supposedly trashed the other guy's room. I think they have him detained. They brought him out. I would believe that they have him detained because they have him out. They brought him outside from out of his house onto the porch, surrounding him and questioning him. So I would say that he's detained right now, but they're pretty much investigating what's going on. At this point, they can't point no fingers at anybody because they wasn't there. And the guy who's accusing him of trashing his room, they're just allegations at this point. There's no proof. See, he gave me an ugly look. He's pretty much telling him, he's just being questioned. They have no idea what's going on. They have to find out the facts. Then he tells him this, and I have to interject. Shout out to Antonio Capone. What's going on, bro?
Whatever he's telling you, if I wasn't here, he fucked around, would have locked you up. Pretty much.
Yes, it is, Ray C. Dorchester. Shout out to Ray C.
Whatever he's telling you, if I wasn't here, he fucked around, would have locked you up. Pretty much. Yeah, body cam on, officer? Okay. See how he's quiet? See how he's whispering to you? Because he's filtering lies to you. You don't want me to hear it. This is for your protection, bro. I'm from this neighborhood just like you are. He'll try to make you think that I'm doing this for likes and stuff on Facebook. No, it's to expose the police. It's to make sure they're going by protocol. That's what this is about. So anytime he's whispering to you because he don't want me to hear, it's because he's trying to feed your brain with bullshit. And that's just the simple truth. Because he know I don't care about him. He know I don't care about nobody else on the Boston PD. You know that, right, officer? He knows it. So whenever he has his voice real low talking to you, it's because he's trying to put some propaganda in your head. I cut that short, didn't I? Try again, officer.
So that was a quick check, real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't too much going on. There wasn't any observance of the police breaking protocol. But as I was recording, as a private citizen has every right to, he wanted to whisper to the supposedly suspect who trashed another roommate's room. He wanted to whisper to him and say, yeah, it's the guy, he's recording you. He's going to put it up on Facebook, and he does it for likes. So I had to check him real quick. And I had to make it be known that this is police accountability. Okay? This is what they do on the streets. When I record here in these Boston streets, being as though these police can't fuck with me, now what they do is they try to infiltrate the brains of the private citizens of whatever situation I'm recording and try to tell them, hey, yeah, it's going to put you up on YouTube. It's going to put you up on Facebook. Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's going up on YouTube, and most likely it's going up on Facebook. But it's not going up as you being the subject, okay? It's going up to show if these police officers are operating by protocol, okay? Because people out here in these streets have contact with these police and don't have any idea that these police are breaking protocol. Starting off when they ask you for your ID when you haven't broken the law. So y'all don't know that, and y'all need to know that. And if whatever city, whatever urban area I'm in, whatever city I go to, this is what I'm going to do. Because this is my way of spreading the information. This is my way of telling y'all how to pull y'all camera out. All right?
Whatever he's telling you, if I wasn't here, he fucked around, would have locked you up. Pretty much. Whatever he's telling you, if I wasn't here, he fucked around, would have locked you up. Pretty much.
You want to whisper and shit.
Yeah, body cam on, officer? Okay.
Since you want to whisper, make sure that body cam on.
See how he quiet? See how he whispering to you? Because he's filtering lies to you. You don't want me to hear it. This is for your protection, bro. I'm from this neighborhood just like you are. He'll try to make you think that I'm doing this for likes and stuff on Facebook to expose the police. To make sure they're going by protocol. That's what this is about. So anytime he whispering to you because he don't want me to hear, is because he's trying to feed your brain with bullshit. And that's just the simple truth. Because he know I don't care about him. He know I don't care about nobody else on the Boston PD. You know that, right, officer? He knows it. So whenever he has his voice real low talking to you, it's because he's trying to put some propaganda in your head. I cut that short, didn't I?
And, you know, that's just a simple fact. I wouldn't have never interjected myself if I didn't hear him spreading lies. Okay? Trying to incite the people. Yeah, police officers do that too, ladies and gentlemen. They get down like that. When they can't get their way and they can't lock you up for a crime, they'll incite the people. Hey, he's recording it. He's going to put you on Facebook and YouTube. He's going to show you a whole situation. You know, it might even be worse for you because we're going to have to lock you up. They'd say things like that. They say, hey, that guy's over there recording, and because he's recording everything, we just may have to lock you up. Threaten them because I'm recording them doing their bullshit. That's how it goes. Hey, shout outs to everybody in the chat, man. Perfect Sense, moderator of the stars. Thank you. Ray C. Antonio Capone. Antonio, yo, bro, email me. Email me. It's right on the ticker tape at the bottom. Email me the situation. What's going on? Give me a brief description on what's going on at the Ville. Okay? You know, well, what's your reason that you think the resistance, police accountability should be there? Hit me up, bro, right now. Like, the email is floating across the bottom of the screen. Hit me up. Joshua H., what's going on? Charlie Dog 84, see you again, bro. My man. Yeah. So, hey, listen, we got a nice little lineup, okay? It's something definitely good that you're going to want to see. Matter of fact, let me pull the program up. All right. And here we go. Program. So as you know, white American female diversity educator says that racism is taught. It's taught, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, come on, you can't be born hating a motherfucker now, can you? Seriously? And I just come out the room and say, "Wah, I hate you, motherfucker." Nah, you can't say no shit like that. It just can't go down like that. So we got a white American female diversity educator, okay? She says that racism is taught. We gotta learn this shit. You gotta learn it. You know, all Facebook followers, guess what? You can join in on the live chat on YouTube by hitting the link. Bam, it's right there. And we go into the program. I don't have a Karen vid this time, ladies and gentlemen, but I do have a crazy vid. Real short, crazy vid. Couldn't find a Karen vid, but I got a crazy vid. Next segment is Let's Drag Race with the Police. Let's drag race with the police. And CNN is violating the First Amendment with misinformation and propaganda. Okay? The very people that the majority of this world relies on for their news, because I don't rely on it. You know, I know how to dissect the bullshit from the real shit and walk off with the real shit. But the very people who are giving up the news and that majority of this world relies on and get it from, violate the First Amendment with misinformation and propaganda. Can you believe that? And also, again, we're going to have a look into this diversity educator, white American female. Let's get into it. Okay. crazy vid coming up right now, man. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. This shit is crazy. You're not gonna believe it, but I seen it and I said, "Wow." I'm just gonna throw it up here because this is crazy. But whatever this chick is on, I don't want no parts of. You hear me? No parts. Get ready. Here we go. Now, I don't know what's going on, what she had prior to this, but this chick is out of pocket. Seriously. And that's our crazy vid, ladies and gentlemen. You only need a couple seconds of that shit. Wow. That's crazy. And that's your crazy vid, ladies and gentlemen. I'm done with that. We don't need to see no more of that. Can you believe it? What is she into? What is she into? That is crazy, man. I can't believe she is on the sub on the train. Laid out on the train with a rat eating out her mouth. That's some wild shit right there. Real wild. Hey man, we about to get into I'm gonna tell y'all right now, right? How about this? If y'all sitting on y'all couch or laying on y'all beds, just buckle up real quick and focusing on your phone, on your laptop, or your TV, or your computer, wherever you're sitting, and just sit real tight in that joint, right? And just focusing on whatever you tuning into, whatever device you tuning into, okay? And get ready to have a virtual simulation of a drag race. Y'all think y'all could do that? Let's have a virtual simulation of a drag race. And imagine it being with the cops. How about that? To make it even more exciting.
Bitcoin, the best money we have ever had.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, ooh. Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Check up, bro. Check up. Oh.
Ain't no checkup. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. We got badges on our chest. Let's go. Come on. We cops. Let's go. Yeah. We moving now. Oh shit, they fucked up now.
Yeah, I'm good. Oh. Ooh. Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Check up, bro.
Check up. No, let's ride. Let's ride. He talking about check up. Hey, man, it's the Resistance. Y'all just tuning in, man. We just seen a cop drag race. Okay, this was in D.C. Yeah, the nation's capital. We had 2 sets of cruisers, 4 officers, 2 in each cruiser. They decided they wanted to drag race on a residential block. That was the outcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now they're gonna have to answer a lot of questions. I knew this happened about, I think maybe a week ago. I know they got to be clean off the force right now. I mean, that was just some dumbass shit right there. What was they thinking about? And these are the people who police our streets. They decide, hey, let's drag race down the block. Boom. Check up. Check up. Check up.
Yeah, I'm good. Oh.
Check up.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Check up, bro. Check up. Oh.
Check up. Check up. These are police officers, ladies and gentlemen. Nation's capital, D.C. This is what they do. This is what they do in the nation's capital, drag race. Yeah. Well, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I got some deep stuff coming up. You might want to brace yourselves and, pay attention. We have Jane Elliot, okay? White female. Diversity educator. And she speaks a lot of truth. And I'm just showing this to y'all because I want to, hear y'all opinions on this. Anybody can weigh in on this. Everybody's welcome in on this. Even the trolls can come in on this. I want to hear everybody's opinion. Because what she says is very deep. Very, very deep, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you how CNN does their propaganda. They like to lie. They like to change the narrative. They like to switch a lot of things. And this is them caught in the act. Speaking about it, ladies and gentlemen. This shit's crazy right here. I mean, we supposed to be, not we, but just, collectively speaking, we supposed to be relying on these networks to deliver us the news, and they're just doing what they want. They're just doing what they want. They're giving it to you the way they want to give it to you. And it's not cool.
I think we got him through this term. We would always show shots of him jogging, him in aviator shades, and you paint him as a young geriatric. You were creating story.
That was Charlie Chester, ladies and gentlemen, CNN technical director. He was recorded talking about how he does the propaganda. Check it out.
Focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
Do you think it's going to be just a lot of fear, climate?
Yeah, fear sells.
No one ever says those things out loud, but it's obvious.
For years, we've heard that CNN is the most trusted name news, but is CNN direct on tape telling us that their propaganda, helping a certain political candidate, employees admitting what we've always known to be true.
Trump was, I remember his hand was shaking or whatever like that. We brought in so many medical people to all tell a story that it was all speculation. And he was neurologically damaged, and he was losing it. He's unfit to whatever. We were creating a story there.
They were making it up. There you go, right there. We were creating the stories. Why would this man say this? Huh? Why would he say this? Why would he put this out there? Why would he expose this publicly? That we're making stories up. Nobody wants to. They don't want anybody to know that they're making stories up. This is secretly recorded, ladies and gentlemen, of how they do their bullshit.
Losing it, he's unfit to, whatever. We were creating a story there. We didn't know anything about it.
I think there's just like a COVID fatigue. So like whenever a new story comes up, they're going to latch onto it. They've already announced in our office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate. It's going to be our focus. Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness. The head of the network,
Who's that? Is that
Zucker, yeah. Climate change is going to be the next COVID. We're going to.
Climate change is going to be the next COVID thing for CNN. This is Charlie Chester, CNN technical director, ladies and gentlemen. This is he's basically explaining how they're going to distribute their propaganda throughout the world. All right, this shit they've known it for years that this is programming, and as long as they put it out there, and as long as they could be relied on as a reputable source, they can say anything they want, and this is what they do.
We're going to our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was.
And that's the question, Mr. Zucker. Why is it so important to hide the truth of what you're really trying to do?
And that's why I say they violating the First Amendment, because they're giving out misinformation and spreading propaganda. And that's against the law to do that. So I sure would like to see what they're going to do with this situation, because him admitting that, along with everybody else that was in cahoots with it, need to be coming to court. Seriously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move in on the next segment. Jane Elliot. Man, she's a beast. I just got to say, how can I go against what she's saying? If y'all know about Jane Elliot, then y'all already know what I'm talking about. But she is a beast. Seriously. She's a diversity. She's a diversity educator. She came up with an experiment. Not an experiment. She would call it a study. She came up with a study years ago with her white classmates, and it was called I believe the blue eye color study, something within that area. But the subject was about that everybody in her class, and these were young kids, and they were all white kids, about 4 to 5 years old, and she separated every child in there that had blue eyes, and everybody had other different color eyes. She separated them on the other side of the class. And the ones with the blue eyes, she gave them the special privileges. And the other ones were pretty much denied those privileges. And it turned into a big thing. But this was years ago. Now she's turned into a beast, and, she speaks on the behalf of racism, and she breaks it down on how racism is taught. It's not in you. You're not born into it. You're born into it, but it's not in you when you come to this earth. When you come out the womb, you don't have racism in you. It's taught. So I'm jumping to this Jane Elliot video. I would, suggest that y'all pay attention to this, because this is real deep, man. Real deep. This is an interview from earlier today that I'm going to play of Jane Elliot, and I just happened to come across it. So after I seen this, I just did more research. So let's get into it.
Yet this As long as you
Couldn't be happy. I want to bring in Jane Elliot right now. Jane Elliot, of course, we've had her on before. She's an amazing educator. She speaks truth to power. She does not hold back. I think she's probably more unfiltered than I am. Jane, when you look at what Jane, I fundamentally believe what's driving all of this is white fear. Republicans are scared to death of black people. They're scared to death of Latinos. Hell, they scared of conscious white folks. And what they're trying. Go ahead.
wait a minute. You're using all the wrong terms in the first place.
See, I was waiting on you to go there. Go ahead.
There is no such thing as white people and black people. There are only people who are different shades of brown. But as long as you use the words white and black, white, the definition of white is pure and unvarnished. Black is the color of savagery and ignorance. Now, as long as you use those two terms, we're going to be at one another's throats. If we ever get around to the point that you can look at me and see that I'm not white, my shirt's white, my hair is white, my skin is not. And I can look at CJ there and I can see that his hair is black and his skin is not. If we could get over the idea of several different races, maybe melanemic people, which is what we white folks ought to be called, could get used to realizing that we're all, the whole thing is so ridiculous. Words are the most powerful weapon.
So basically, what she's saying is, first we're going to get into this color of the white, color of white. Some consider white to be a color because white light comprises all hues on the visible light spectrum. And many do consider black to be a color because you combine other pigments to create it on paper. But in a technical sense, black and white are non-colors. They're shades. All right? So basically what she's saying is that it's been indoctrinated in most people to look at somebody who's a different shade than them, who's a different color. All right. It's not about how a person acts, the way a person smiles, or the way a person looks at you. It's all about color. All right. And you're here on the Resistance channel, so whatever I talk about is going to be real, and we talk about the bare facts. So you might as well just get with it or get going, because the simple fact of it is that racism is part of today and is very much part of this country. So she's explaining that it's taught that you should hate or dislike or oppress or go against a different color. It's taught that. You don't come into this earth with that.
Devised by humankind. I'm sitting here listening to words being used in ways that will separate us indefinitely. As long as you call yourselves white and black, and as long as you call yourselves members of different races, that, by God, is how long this problem is going to last.
So you call yourself, you said melanemic? What did you say?
Melanemic.
Melanemic, okay. So
if you're anemic, you don't have enough blood iron in your blood to keep you healthy, so you're called anemic.
So how do Jane, our public policy, how do we confront the melanemic Republicans who want to prevent the melanated other folk from being able to cast votes, who are able to put in all of these ridiculous measures that they claim is voter integrity, when in fact it is all designed to keep power in their melanemic hands?
Number one, you have to stop calling them Republicans, because Donald Trump knocked the L out of the word Republican. So what you end up with is a description of what he is most interested in, the area in which he is most interested. You've got to stop talking about Donald Trump. As long as you talk about him, he maintains his importance.
Oh no! I didn't mention Donald Trump. That's why I said the party. Because see, the mistake that Hillary Clinton made in 2016, she tried to separate Trump from the Republican Party. Then Joe Biden, and I'm like, no. These folks, you can take Trump out of this. They still are pursuing policies that are going to impact me in a negative way.
They aren't the ones you have to worry about. You have to worry about the evangelicals who are supporting Trump.
Right.
If you read the book Unholy, read the book Unholy, and then you'll know where the problem is, and you'll know what you have to do about it. I am more frightened by what the evangelicals are doing to this country than by what one man and the Republican Party can do to it. The evangelicals have now invaded every facet.
And fast forward a little bit. We have a speaker in this interview as well, a young black male who was a speaker on January 6th at the insurrection at the Capitol.
They aren't the ones you have to worry about. You have to worry about it. I am Republican of that demonstration. Got done telling you.
You know, nothing brings me more joy than being lectured by white liberals about how I should approach the issue of race in America.
Just a damn minute. Just a damn minute. I just got done telling you, I'm not white and you're not black. I'm a member of the same race that you are. You and I are 30th to 50th cousins. Now, you may not want me for your cousin, but that's the way it is. Stop dealing with a lie and start dealing with the facts. Let's deal with reality here. Let's deal with reality here. And the reality is that I don't have to listen to some young man who has already let me know that the color of my skin makes me unable to discuss race. Now, don't tell me that I can't, because I was dealing with racism long before you were born. 53 years I've been listening to people say ugly things about people who look like you, and blaming those statements on people who look like me. We make a decision as to whether we are going to trust another person based on our judgment of the color of their skin. You cannot judge me by the color of my skin, and I'm not judging you by the color of your skin. I'm judging the remarks that you're making that indicate to me that you aren't thinking very well. That
Jane Elliot, ladies and gentlemen, y'all pay attention to this, man. I'm glad we got a small group that's here and staying in here, because this is some gems that she's dropping. These are some gems that she's dropping. Pay attention.
You are following the lies of a man who he has absolutely violated every constitution, every part of the Constitution, and every one of the 10 Commandments. And you are following him, and you're going to go off that. You're going to go off.
Shout outs to Baron Von Taco Cat. It would just be easy for us to call ourselves Americans. I wish it could be easy like that, and it would be easy if only we were all treated like people from this country. That's the problem. We're not all treated like we're from this country. And that's why we can't just go with, hey, we're all Americans. Well, mostly everybody's not going to agree with that.
That ledge, just like a whole bunch of other really good Christian people are. And you're going to wonder how that happened. Look, you're old enough to grow up now and change that and start thinking for yourself instead of being led by a man who will use you as long as he can, and then when he no longer needs you, he will drop you like a hot potato. You need to realize that you are not someone he admires or wants around him. As he said in his first news conference, I've got my black, and he pointed at the one black person in his entourage on television. Now, I remember that. You don't remember that because you're too young to have watched it at that time. You need to open your eyes, open your ears, and shut your mouth.
Okay, so here's the deal, Jack. So CJ,
Yo,
CJ,
she is grilling him, right? As soon as I figure out this young guy's whole name, I'm going to pull him up. I'm going to Google his name. It's CJ something. If you guys know his name, put it in the chat so I can Google him. But he's in support of Trump and Trump's parties. So, you got to pay attention and listen to where he's coming from, because there's a reason why they're all up here on this panel grilling him and drilling him the way they are.
You can now respond to Jane. We'll let you respond. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that dressing down my melaninic sister, but I've got to tell you, this is the type of self-righteousness that has turned so many black people away from the Democrat Party. You think that you can lecture me about how I should react as a black man in America is the type of pomposity, the type of ego, and the type of overconfidence that literally makes people despise people just like you.
Well, let's take that back real quick. What he said, he just made an accusation, and I didn't hear that from her.
Because I was dealing with instead of being led.
Pomposity, the type of ego. You know, this is the type of self-righteousness that has turned so many black people away from the Democrat Party. You think that you can lecture me about how I should react as a black man in America is the type of pomposity, the type of ego, and the type of overconfidence that literally makes people despise people just like you. You will not tell me, you will not define as a melanemic person my experience as a black man in America or discredit my blackness based on my politics and my ideals.
I didn't hear none of that.
And my principles. You won't do that. And so you can tell me to shut my mouth. That's crazy. That's the thing that really grinds my gears about people.
That's what elders do. They tell you you got to suck that up, white or black. They will tell you to shut your mouth real quick. They will tell you to shut your mouth, and you just suck it up and do it. I do it all the time.
Just like you, white liberals who think they can tell people on the right, because we're black, that they can tell us to shut up and sit down because we espouse beliefs that are different than their own. That is racism.
But here's the deal, though. I'm asking you to see.
Wait, he isn't talking.
Real good talker, ladies and gentlemen. This CJ character, he's a real good talker. He's young. He goes to a prestigious university, and he spoke on the 6th of January. The insurrection at the Capitol. That's where he spoke at. And he's a supporter of Trump, but he's a good flip-flopper too. He knows what to say, knows how to deflect and make it sound real good.
He is talking like a white man. He is doing the same things that Mr. Trump is doing.
She said he is talking like a white man.
That is racism.
But here's the deal, though. I'm asking you to see.
He isn't talking like a black man. He is talking like a white man. He is doing the same things that Mr. Trump is doing for the last 4 years. Doing the same thing that Donald Trump has been doing, and you are regurgitating what Donald Trump has put into your head. You need to stop that and start thinking for yourself.
What is with you and these commands? Like, do you think you get to tell black people?
That's just the youth in them right there, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Miss Biggie, CJ Pearson. I got him. Listen, that's just the youth in them, ladies and gentlemen. Let's disregard that because all youth take everything personal and take it as an attack. So, she's just using strong words. She's not giving this man commands or trying to tell him what to do or attacking for what party he's on. She's just trying to tell him that you're a little miseducated. As much education that he thought he got, she's telling him that he is miseducated.
Dude, is that how you operate your daily life? Instructing black people how to think, how to act, they can and cannot say? Because I support a President Trump, that brought about the lowest black in history. Criminal justice reform, the First Step Act, millions of dollars navigated to HBCUs, economic opportunities to navigate commercial investments in inner cities that were long neglected. And I understand you probably are eager to tell me to shut my mouth right now because you hate it when black conservatives even utter a single word. But I'm going to keep talking because these are facts, these are truths.
Actually, I'm going to step in right here because actually, see.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here we go. We got CJ Pearson. A quick Wikipedia real quick just to get a roundabout about the guy. Kareko Jaquan Pearson, born July 31st, 2002. He's a youngin'. Is an American conservative, political activist, and commentator. Born in Augusta, Georgia, Pearson was raised in Grovetown. His political interest deepened aged 8 when he began blogging in support of local conservative politicians. He embarked on a career as an internet personality. In early 2015, he uploaded a video to YouTube defending comments made by former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, and criticism of then President Barack Obama, which quickly gained international attention. After this, he began his career as a freelance journalist and has campaigned for several Republican politicians and Bernie Sanders. Pearson, a conservative, describes himself as an anti-establishment populist. He is the executive director of Young Georgians in Government and executive director of Teens for Trump. Let's get into the video.
TJ, what you just spouted were not actual facts. That's first, okay? Excuse me, CJ, sorry. Everything that you just stated, we've covered on this show. Dr. Walter Kimbrough, who is an HBCU president, Dillon University, has debunked the nonsense that you just stated about HBCUs. That's first. He's an actual HBCU president for 16 years. Two, what you have to understand, the woman who actually sponsored the very bill that you are giving Trump credit for, her name is Congresswoman Alma Adams, a graduate of North Carolina A&T. We had her on this show. So all this talk what Trump did, that's grossly incorrect. Two, you talk about criminal justice reform. Let me remind you, Donald Trump did not pass criminal justice reform. If it were not for Democrats who control the...
Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I got to stop this right now. I just noticed something, and I apologize for not paying attention to the chat like I should, but I just want to recognize Miss B for becoming a new member. Shout out to Miss B. Appreciate you, Miss B. And, if you guys would like to become a member, if you enjoy the content that I got going on for y'all, all y'all got to do is just hit that join button. It's real simple. iPhone users, you go to a tablet or a PC. It's that easy.
It's a very psychological thing that's happening here.
A House, there would be no bill that went over to the Senate. It was Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and others who advanced it in the House. Let me also remind you that your party blocked President Barack Obama from passing a criminal justice reform act when he was president because they did not want it to include real criminal justice reform. Now, you're sitting there with your huge Alabama flag over your shoulder. And let me remind you, it was former Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, who was the Attorney General, who also...
Well, you got rolling, grinding him up. And get back to Miss Elliot.
Coming out of the mind of a person who's young enough to be taught better, and he needs to be re-educated. And the rest, and the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, that whole group of mostly white, fairly young men. Of course, for me, everybody's young, but most of them are old enough to know better, but too damn young to care. And you cannot solve things by saying to people, my mind's made up, don't confuse me with facts. That's exactly what this young gentleman is doing, and that's exactly what most of us are doing most of the time in this country right now. We want to pretend that what we have is what we have described. It isn't. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm one of the free, and that young man has to become brave. He has to be brave, and his mother has to be extremely brave if she's going to live in this country, which is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes.
And that's the whole truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, the whole reason why I'm putting this in front of y'all. Because we want to talk about how we're going to make things better. We want to talk about how it's going to be better policing. We want to talk about how we want to eliminate systemic racism. Well, the whole thing is racism, period. It's a big problem here today in this country. And it's been for a very long time. It never went anywhere. In some places around the country, it may slipped under the rug, like here in Boston. Oh, yeah, they had a good about 20, 25 years where it slipped under the rug and everybody kind of forgot about, hey, Boston used to be racist as fuck. And then they just came back up under the rug and showed their fucking creepy ass selves, A lot had to do with the drug use in the city. If too many people, everybody getting high. How much time they got to be hating on each other? Small city, so we got a majority of these people that's homeless and out in the street getting high, ain't got time to be hating on each other. Maybe 10, 15 years before, when the city was a little better and segregated in certain hoods, like your man Wahlberg was from Dorchester, okay? Yeah, we could talk about that another time, but Wahlberg, the Wahlbergs from Dorchester, white people section over there and segregated black people section over on the other side. They might have been that kind of way during those years and prior, but when the drugs hit Boston, during the 90s, heavy, 80s and 90s, heavy, especially in the 90s. Ain't nobody in town be hating on each other. They looking for the next hit. You dig what I'm saying? But this is the whole reason why. Let me get this piece of candy out of my mouth. I know I'm getting on y'all nerves with that. Apologize. Uh, it's the whole reason why I'm bringing this in front of y'all because racism is alive and well.
Because of the fear of white people that when people of color get power, they're going to want to treat us the way we have treated them. That is the major problem in the United States right now, is white fear of retribution. I think we could give up that fear. I have watched people go through this exercise, the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise, and after it's over, I have heard them say,
the exercise is called the blue eye, brown eye exercise. She did this years ago. It's deep.
I had no idea. I will not abuse people. I will not make them feel the way I felt when I was on the bottom. I never knew how it felt to be on the bottom before. Now I've found out how that feels. I will never do something that will make someone feel the way I felt for just an hour and a half. I think we have misjudged the intelligence and the humanity of a whole lot of people of color, and that's why we're afraid of it.
Greg Carr, the last week and a half, we've listened to Fox News and all of these other folks, these conservatives, whine about critical race theory. They're running their mouth. Oh my God, critical race theory is Marxist and it's destroying America. Yet Nikki Haley's out there. Yet when you ask them to define it, this country.
But they don't even want to see Jesus as he's described in the Bible, with kinky woolly hair and feet of bronze. We white folks, I'm sorry, but that's what we have to call us. We pale faces, one of the major differences between me and you is when pale faces come into a new environment, they immediately adjust the environment to fit their needs. And if it's religion, they do it there too. We want to kneel to somebody who looks like us. That is a mental problem that we have, and we need to get over it. And we won't get over it until we are in the position in which we have placed people in this country for the last 300 years. We have to let people find out how it feels to be on the bottom. And white folks are scared to death. Melanemic people, pale faces, are scared to death that that's what's going to happen to them. I don't think it is. I think that people of darker complexion, melanations people, are more intelligent than that. They know what happens when you set up a system like that, and the people who are on the top are making it work for them.
Let me pause that right there and fast forward. I do have another video to go into, but we're going to dig into this just a little bit more because she used to speak facts all through, trying not to interrupt as much.
Can't even say, damn, that was wrong. Do you know how easy that is?
Because I don't agree with you, Roland.
So you agree with what Republicans did in North Carolina?
I agree with it. Legislation that advances the idea that our elections should be safe and secure.
There we go right there. See, that's that talking point stuff. That's talking point stuff. See, Jane, here, let me give a fact. Let me get some facts here, Jane. The North Carolina Supreme Court ruled, CJ, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled, Jane, that there was racial gerrymandering in North Carolina. The federal courts ruled that there was lazy-like targeting of black voters. And your criticism earlier of CJ, Jane, I think is on point. When he can't even acknowledge when his own party is wrong in the targeting of black voters, I'm not asking him to renounce being a Republican. I'm not asking him to condemn the entire party. I'm saying, damn, can you at least say, like Colin Powell did, that is wrong? But the fact that he can't even, with those of us who are melanated evangelicals who love Jesus. My wife is an ordained minister, but they are afraid to sit down with Reverend Dr. Barber. They're afraid to.
All right, I'm gonna stop this right here because this is not about Roland. This is about Jane Elliot. But I'm about to get into another video where basically she explains more about the blue eye, brown eye exercise. Just give y'all some information on Jane Elliot real quick. Jane Elliot is an American diversity educator. As a school teacher, she became known for her blue eyes, brown eyes exercise, which he first conducted with the third grade class on April 5th, 1968, the day after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Publication in a local newspaper of compositions the children had written about the experience led to much broader media interest. The classroom exercise was filmed in 1970, becoming a documentary, The Eye of the Storm. PBS series Frontline featured a reunion of the 1970 class as well as Elliott's work with adults in his 1985 episode. A class divided. Invitations to speak and to conduct her exercise eventually led Elliott to give up school teaching and become a full-time public speaker against discrimination. She has directed the exercise and lectured on its effects in many places throughout the world. She also has conducted the exercise with college students, as seen in the 2001 documentary, The Angry Eye, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm about to get into this video real quick.
Because the members.
The Reset Freedom Fund dinner. We had a chance to talk to her. Here's part of that interview. For people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a third grade teacher in a country school in Riceville, Iowa, and I am here at the NAACP speaking because the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed by a society that hated him because he was going to change the economic situation in this country, I did an exercise in discrimination with my third grade classroom to let my little third graders, all white, all Christian children, find out how it feels to be something other than white in the United States of America. I split them according to the color of their eyes and treated those who had their own color eyes for the day the way we have traditionally treated blacks, Native Americans, Asians, all those Jews, all those who are different in appearance or in religion. And we learned more that day than I wanted to know.
What did that study show you?
Oh, it showed me a lot of things. Number one, it showed me that racism is a learned response. Nobody's born a bigot. You have to teach bigotry, and that's what we do in this country. I found out how it feels to be on the receiving end of racism because I'm blue-eyed, and the brown-eyed children were on the top in that first day. And I found out how it feels to be treated badly by people over whom you have power because of having their own color eyes. I found out how it feels
Charles
to
Mike
be
Jones.
subjected to unbelievable and unreal discrimination because of a physical characteristic over which I had no control. I thought I knew about racism. I thought I knew about child psychology. I knew nothing. All I knew was what I had learned in school. And what I had learned in school was not education. What I got in school wasn't education. It was indoctrination. I was taught how to be a good American citizen. And in this country, we think...
And in my opinion, that's what, most people that went through the public school system, period, here in America, don't understand that it was an indoctrination. It's the story that they wanted you to learn and they wanted you to go by.
I think that the only Americans are the ones who live in the contiguous 48 states of the United States. Americans are everybody from the very north tip of Canada to the very southern tip of South America. But we, in our arrogance, say that we are the only Americans. If you're really going to keep this America to Americans, we don't dare build a wall on the southern border of the United States because those people, those brown-skinned people that are going to come across that border are Americans. Now, we better choose our language or choose our behavior. So let me tell you something. It wasn't a study, and it wasn't an experiment. I don't experiment with children without their knowledge or their permission. It was experiential education. It was giving a child an experience for the purpose of changing their brain. And that's exactly what it does every time I do it.
Now, you conducted the same study, I'm sorry, not study. Exercise with adults.
Oh, yeah.
And is it any different between the children and the adults?
Adults get more violent. I've been hit several times by white males, angry white males. I've had a knife pulled on me. They ran me out of Uniontown, Pennsylvania at midnight one night, 3 carloads of blacks did, to get me out of town because the teachers that I put through the exercise in a very limited way were so angry that they called the superintendent in the afternoon and said, if you don't get that bitch out of town, we're going to kill her. So they got me out of town. First time I've been scared. And the last time I've been scared. Because I found out that day that they could kill me, but they couldn't kill the idea. Victor Hugo said, no force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. The idea of one race, the human race, is an idea whose time has come. We are not going to be able to stop it no matter what they do. They can elect Trump after Trump after Trump, and that will not stop the idea that there's only one race on the face of the earth. It's the human race, and we are all members of it. You and I are cousins. Now, if you don't like being my cousin, that's too bad for you. But we are all in the same family. We are members of the family of man.
You say that all whites are racist. Can you expound on that?
Any white person who was born, raised, and schooled in the United States of America, if you aren't a racist, you're a miracle. Either that or you decided to educate yourself. Because education in this country is about white is right, brown's all right, black's got to stand back. Yellow's mellow, but whites, we educate in a way that says that white males have done all the adventures, have made all the adventures, have done all the discovering, have made everything that is good and has been accomplished according to social studies, which is actually anti-social studies, by white males. It's a lie.
Shout out to Wing Fang.
And we do that in order to maintain the myth of white superiority. The myth of race has to be maintained at all costs in this country. Because if white people have to give up the color of their skin as being something that makes them perfect, what do they have left? If we start teaching the truth about history, if we start teaching about Nile Valley contributions to civilization, it will totally change the way we conduct ourselves in the classroom. It will have to. Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover a place where people are already living. But we celebrate that every October.
Deep.
It's a lie. We need to get over it. We need to stop telling the myths and start telling the truth.
So when you tell people that they're racist,
I got John Dial in the chat. He feel a little indifferent. John Dial, I'm gonna drop the link for you to come up and talk about it, bro. Let's talk about it.
It must have some kind of effect because most people will say, I'm not racist.
I'm not a racist. Why, some of my best friends are black. Yeah, and then you say, name one. Or this one, I don't see color. And when some woman says to me, I don't see color, I say, I knew that if you saw color, you wouldn't dye your hair that way. Or I say, if you saw color, you wouldn't wear that shirt with those pants. I believe that you don't see color. It's an attempt to deny skin color. And it's an attempt to deny what's wrong with seeing the color of my skin. Is it all right for you to see me kind of pink? That's okay for me. I don't mind. And I suspect that you don't mind being seen the color you are. You have a right to be what you are. And until people in this country and people in this world get it into their heads that the first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women. They evolved in sub-Saharan Africa about 280,000 years ago. And every human being on the face of the earth today has the memory of those black women's genetic structure in their genes. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And I suspect that you don't mind being seen the color you are. You have a right to be what you are. And until people in this country and people in this world get it into their heads that the first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women. They evolved in sub-Saharan Africa about 280,000 years ago. And every human being on the face of the earth today has the memory of those black women's genetic structure in their genes. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And
Aaron Moorfield said, what happened to work ethic? Clarify, explain what you mean. Or better yet, search for the link in the chat. Come on up and talk about it.
I found that out when I was raising little kids. My husband worked in a supermarket. He was the head of the produce department. Fish and a lot of vegetables, so their skin took on a different tone. I found that my hair, their skin, and their eyes got lighter as they moved into this. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And as people moved farther and farther from the equator, their bodies produced less and less melanin, so their hair, their skin, and their eyes got lighter. As they moved into the east, they ate a lot of fish and a lot of vegetables, so their skin took on a different tone. I found that out when I was raising little kids. My husband worked in a supermarket. He was the head of the produce department. And they had lots of oranges that they couldn't sell, so he'd bring them home. And I was feeding my kids orange juice like you never saw in your life. They began to have an orange cast to their skin. I thought they had a liver problem. So I took them to the doctor, and she said, "What are you feeding these kids?" I said, "Well, lots of orange juice." She said, "Stop it if you want them to stop being orange." Now, if you think that skin color isn't anything other than the body's natural reaction to the natural environment, get over it.
So, if all white people are racist, according to you, can they be reprogrammed?
Of course they can. Of course they can. Of course they can be. It's called education. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from the root dus, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means
Shout out to Karen Cantanella.
which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people out of ignorance. Now, I know you can change them. The second year I did the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise in my classroom, it was filmed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They gave me a copy of that film. I showed it to my father. My father was about 59 years old at the time. He's been a farmer all his life. He raised six kids, lost one, raised six. Watched that film as a 59-year-old man. When it was over, he stood up, and with tears in his eyes, he took his red handkerchief out of the back pocket of his overalls, his bill overalls, and said, "I wish somebody had taught me that when I was 9 years old." Nobody had dare say to me, "This doesn't work. This is too harsh. This isn't necessary. You can't teach an old dog new tricks because they're wrong." You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach people to give up the myth of racism. Somebody taught the Greeks to give up the myth that the sun was a god in a golden chariot that went across the sky every morning. They believed that for hundreds of years.
I don't know. What you think, John Dow? Can racism be reversed? Do you think racism can be reversed, John Dow?
Believed the myth of 3 or 4 races, different races in this country, for long enough. 572 years or something like that is enough of that. It was a lie to begin with, and it's a lie to be
Trainer and human rights activist Jane Elliot. Now, we often hear about reverse racism now.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. You can only be a racist if you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you.
I gotta rewind that, because a lot of people always point the finger at darker shades and say, "You're a racist, you're a racist." But I never agreed with that, because the most darkest shade or the darker shades, period, never had dynasties of oppression. Okay, they never distributed oppression within dynasties, within centuries. Okay, it's only a certain shade that has handled the oppression department, and it's the lighter shade. So let me rewind this real quick.
If you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you. What we're calling reverse racism is natural racism.
Trainer and human rights activist Jane Elliot. Now, we often hear about reverse racism.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism.
Shout out to Baron Von Taco Cat. He said there was Moors that ran Europe. Yes, they did. Wasn't for a very long period of time. And I'm talking about within thousands of years. It was a very, very short period of time within those thousands of years that tyranny, oppression, and slavery was distributed.
You can only be a racist if you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you. What we're calling reverse racism is natural reaction to being treated unfairly on the basis of somebody else's ignorance.
Facts.
Now, don't ever let anybody say to you or about anyone around you that people don't like that person because of the color of their skin. That isn't the reason white people don't like people of color. They don't like people of color because they don't understand about skin color. And they don't understand that we all are descendants of somebody who looked like your mother.
And let me just clarify something and piggyback on what I just said to Baron Von Taco Cat. I mentioned that, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because it is known that, all races over the world has participated in some kind of slavery or some type of, oppression. But, what I'm saying is that the lighter shade has outweighed the whole oppression situation. They've pretty much ran that department. Okay. And it's been the darkest shade has been on the receiving end. As simple as that. That's just facts.
Steve.
You don't really want to get me started on this because
I do want to get you started.
I'm really angry about how we are miseducating the American mind.
And what I like the most about what you do in your exercises is that you come in with a very direct attitude. You even call yourself the B word.
Well, but you see, the B word for me is the one that's most often used to refer to me. It used to bother me a lot. For me, the B word is an acronym for being in total control, honey. So you want to call me that? That'll prove to me that you're out of control. And then I'll whip out my little Lorena Bobbitt fruit knife and take care of it for you. Go on.
So is it necessary to strip away all of a white person's power, like in your exercises, in order for them to see the light? Or is there another way?
It's necessary to do what we do in offices and in the military and in schools and colleges and in hospitals and in community groups all the time. What we do is we become our parent ego. We go into our parent ego state, and that forces all those we're working with into their child ego state. And if you watch our present, so-called president, he spends most of his time either in his child or his parent ego state. He never gets into his adult ego state unless he's reading off the teleprompter. And he is such a poor reader that oftentimes he makes mistakes, and then he is instantly in his child ego state right in front of your very eyes. It's absolutely fascinating to watch it happen.
Speaking of our president, a lot of people say that racism has risen under him.
Anybody who doesn't say that hasn't been paying attention. It absolutely has. I'm getting more hate mail now than I have gotten for years. The kinds of things that are being said in this country today are things that he has said for the last 2 years. He has said them publicly, and he got elected because he said them publicly. They dare say to me, this doesn't work. Comes from the root deuce, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix. It was a lie to begin with, and it's a lie to be
trainer, a human rights activist.
Such thing as reverse racism.
Now, we often hear about reverse racism now.
There's no such thing as reverse racism.
Pay attention, Baron Von Tackle Cat. She dropping gems.
There's no such thing as
to hear about reverse racism now.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. You can only be a racist if you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you.
Right here.
If you have the power, there's no such thing as reverse racism. You can only be a racist if you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you. What we're calling reverse racism is natural reaction to being treated unfairly on the basis of somebody else's ignorance. Now, don't ever let anybody...
That's the true meaning of reverse racism. There you go, right there.
Like that. Natural reaction to being treated unfairly on the basis of somebody else's ignorance. Natural reaction to being treated unfairly on the basis of somebody else's ignorance. Now, don't ever let anybody say to you, or about this of somebody else's ignorance. Now, don't ever let anybody say to you, or about anyone around you, that people don't like that person because of the color of their skin. That isn't the reason white people don't like people of color. They don't like people of color because they don't understand about skin color. And they don't understand that we all are descendants of somebody who looked like your mother.
Steve.
You don't really want to get me started.
Shout out to John Dow and Baron Von Tackle Cat for being good sports. I mean, it is what it is. Just like he said, people believe in what they want to believe in. Just seems as facts as me. This just seems like facts to me. Okay? This is just jewels being dropped. He said feelings. Yep, that's how I feel.
I do want to get you started.
I'm really angry about how we are miseducating the American mind.
And what I like the most about what you do in your exercises is that you come in with a very direct, you can call yourself the B word.
Well, but you see, the B word for me is the one that's most often used to refer to me. It used to bother me a lot. For me, the B word is an act United States today than there were previous to Brown versus Board of Education. And that's a fact. You need to realize that it is not the intent of white people to let this situation change in favor of anyone but themselves. And right now, white people are really frightened. If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States, you haven't read the book The Birth Dearth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute. And he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, the main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country. He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987. He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you almost exactly what he says. He says there are three things we can do to solve this. Number one, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again, he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those going to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Does that sound like racism to you? And if it doesn't, I want to know why it doesn't. If it doesn't, you don't understand what racism is. And I think it does. When we close Planned Parenthood clinics because we think they're there only for abortion, we need to take another look. They are used for many, many, many things, and many women need the things that they can get from Planned Parenthood clinics. But we are willing to do away with all that good to avoid allowing white women to have control of their own bodies. Now, nobody had better tell one of my daughters or granddaughters what they can do with their body. You haven't that right. Now, it would be interesting if we were as concerned about sperm cells, wouldn't it? I mean, we could take a whole lot of fun out of you boys' lives.
Right. A lot of people don't understand the trauma associated with race and racism. Can you talk a little bit about the trauma associated with?
The trauma associated with it? One of the main traumas is it tells white people that they are superior because of the lack of melanin in their skin. And then they find out suddenly that we've got a black president. That's traumatic. That's where the trauma is. Living a lie, finding out the truth is traumatic. Finding out now, recently, that within 30 years, white people will be in the numerical minority in this country is going to be traumatic. And that's the reason we have to solve this problem, and we have to solve it now. I will ask folks tonight, how many of you black folks want to get even with all white people? And that's what white people are quite certain blacks are going to want to do, is get even with all white people. Nobody will raise their hand, and then I'll say, how many of you want to get even with one or two? Every hand will go up, and you know why, and so do I. White people are scared to death right now, particularly white males. They're scared to death that they are going to lose their power in the future. And they are. But if you want to get ready for the future, if you want to be treated well in the future, treat others well in the present. What we do in the present constructs the future. What we have done in the past, we can learn from that. And we'd better learn from that. Those who forget the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat them. And when you read this book, you'll realize that that's exactly what we're doing. We're repeating the mistakes that we have made in the past because we aren't teaching about these mistakes in the present. We are not teaching history that is true. We aren't teaching social studies that is true. We aren't even teaching true geography, for God's sake. Have you seen the Mercator map recently? Have you seen that great big Greenland hanging down in the middle of that map like a ripe plum? And have you seen the legend at the bottom that says South America is actually 9 times larger than Greenland? Are you aware of that? Most of those watching this program are not aware of that.
You mentioned it many times in the. At first, we heard several things about the wall. First, Mexico was going to pay for the wall, and
yeah, but you need to know.
But Baron Von Taco Cat, no, wait a minute.
Said during that campaign.
1 second. Is that Baron Von Taco Cat make that comment? Or was it John Dow? Let me get it right. Somebody said, so don't change history. John Dow. But who's been changing history? Who's been in control, John Dow? Who's been in power and in control to change history? You can't just say don't change history when it's already been changed so many times over time by the same people, the same bloodline that's been in power.
It wasn't true. And the wall business wasn't true either. If his mouth is moving, his lips are moving, he's probably lying. You know that as well as I do.
I don't think she's outdated when she comes to speaking about racism, because it's alive and well.
Tend to build a wall? We can't afford to build that wall. We have no business building that wall. We would be keeping Americans out of America. What's your question?
The question on the wall is, there's, when you talk to people about the wall, to certain people about the wall, there's certain people for it, certain people against it. The people who are for it, what's their mindset?
They're scared.
I just want to see where we at in the chat. If you fuck with her, put 1. If you don't fuck with her, put 2. I just like to see where we at in the chat. We got 20 people. It shouldn't take long to find out. We got 19 people now. Somebody just dropped out. 1 if you fuck with her, 2 if you don't.
Immigrants are going to come over here and take their jobs. Let me tell you something. You can build a wall 50 feet tall. And smart Hispanics, Latinos, smart Ecuadorians, smart others are going to tunnel under that wall and come up in their friend's house on the other side. You can build walls until hell freezes over. You will not keep that immigration from happening. And you better hope we don't keep that immigration from happening. We need those people. You know what will happen to the economy of this country if we take all the people who are brown-skinned immigrants out of this country, if we send them back? Do you know what will happen to our economy? Do you know what will happen to farming in California? Do you know what will happen to the price of your fruit? Do you know how...
John Dow says she's delusional. He spelled it wrong, though. They said she's delusional.
hard it will be to get a good avocado? Do you have any idea what will happen to this country's economy if all those brown-skinned people go back to Mexico? I don't think we do. I don't think people have thought about that because they are being taught not to think. They are using a language. Right now, we are using a language that includes words like
All right, 1 if you black, 2 if you white, 3 if you from another race.
Aren't listening to the philosophy behind them. They aren't listening to core principles which this person has none of.
Now, just a couple more questions. When we hear, when I hear people say that they're not racist and things like that, and we talk about building racial harmony in this country, I don't think I see it in my lifetime. Can you predict in the near future or far future when we will ever have racial harmony?
Oh yeah, in 30 years, white people will have found out that they have no choice but to get along with those who are different from themselves. I'm not willing. I'd love to wait, but I can't. At my age, I'm not going to be here in 30 years. But we could change this situation if we chose to. During
1 if you white, 1 if you black, 2 if you white, 3 if you're of another race or ethnicity.
We called the Japanese, and you'll pardon me, but this is what we call them: slant-eyed little yellow. We didn't say that about the Germans. After the war, we rebuilt Germany and Japan, and we get along beautifully with the Japanese. That was in 1945 that we finally won that war. How many years ago was that? Figure that out quickly.
I'm not a math person.
You're not a math person.
So the reason why I asked Aaron Moorfield is because I want to see who's in favor of this lady, and I want to see who's not in favor of this lady, and then I want to see the differentiation of color. Who's in favor of this lady and who's not in favor of this lady. So once we finish taking the tally on who's white or who's black, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. 1 if you're black, 2 if you're white, 3 if you're other. And then we'll break it down on what it comes down to.
And it didn't take 50 years for us to have peace with the Japanese and the Germans, even though we dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan. The Japanese hadn't killed 10 million people. Nowhere near that. We didn't drop any bombs on Germany, because any atomic bombs on Germany. They were a different kind of people. We couldn't afford to do that. We killed how many Japanese people with 2 atomic bombs? And they forgave us. You want to talk about forgiveness? You want to talk about changing this thing? I cannot understand how Japanese people can stand the sight of any of us, and yet they do. I cannot understand why black people who have been subjected to the ugliness that they've been subjected to in this country can get up every morning and go to work among us and not be absolutely furious.
And she's speaking facts too, because she can't understand it. She can't understand it. All it's about is just keeping it moving, trying to live life the best way we can.
While white people behave the way they do. I don't understand that. And my 3rd graders, after they'd gone through the exercise, couldn't understand it and wouldn't tolerate it. And when they went up to junior high and a junior high teacher used the N-word, one of my former students said, if you're going to use that word, I'm going to go out in the hall until you stop using it, because we don't use that word in this school. That was a 7th grader who told his teacher off. When we have enough students who are willing to confront people who are making racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic statements, we're going to be better off. We have got to stop tolerating the intolerable. If it's intolerable for my black cousins, and every black person on this earth is one of my cousins.
Just for confirmation, I want to ask Brian Barrett. I want to ask Brian Barrett again. Are you in favor of this woman, or do you think she's to the left? I think you said you weren't in favor, but just confirmation, bro. I just want to know.
If it's intolerable for them, it's intolerable for me. I will not tolerate it. I will not tolerate it. That is not that. I am required not to tolerate that kind of treatment for the people who are related to me. And that's every.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Morfeld, he said, do you think you're a racist? Press 1 for yes. Press 2 for no. All right. I'm going to put mine in. And everybody can put theirs in as well. Brian Barrett, he responded. I think he did.
If your ignorance is such that you will mistreat somebody.
Shout out to Great Night 7777.
Number 1, I've been threatened with death lots of times. Now I say, go for it, fool. My husband died 4 years ago. Being with him would not.
Shout out to Brian Barrett. Thanks, bro. I seen your comment earlier, but I couldn't remember what you said. That's all that's about.
Be a bad thing for me. Death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Living a worthless, useless life is much worse than dying.
Shout outs to Great Night 7777. I knew where you coming from, bro. I definitely knew where you were coming from. You don't need no explanation.
You and I are cousins. Now, if you don't like being my cousin, that's too bad for you. But we are all in the same family. We are members of the family of man.
You say that all whites are racist. Can you expound on that?
Any white person who was born, raised, and schooled in the United States of America, if you aren't a racist, you're a miracle. Either that or you decided to educate yourself. Because education in this country is about white is right, brown's all right, black's got to stand back. Yellow's mellow, but whites, we educate in a way that says that white.
And let me just maybe try to expound on what Great Night 777 was saying. Is basically what she was saying is that if you're come from a bloodline or many generations that has been ruled superior, offspring is going to automatically receive that and believe that as well. And unconsciously, you're going to, this is in my opinion, okay? In my opinion. But subconsciously, you're going to view things in a racist manner. You may even say something that might be racist that you don't think is racist. I've seen a lot of white people that say racist things and don't even believe that what they said is racist. You know? And it could be a long drawn out argument and it doesn't get nowhere because they believe that they're not racist. And a lot of them don't know. So shout out to Grade 97777 for pulling himself up on that and putting it out there and being honest as well.
Says to me, I don't see color. I say, I knew that if you saw color, you wouldn't dye your hair that way. Or I say, if you saw color, you wouldn't wear that shirt with those pants. I believe that you don't see color. It's an attempt to deny skin color. And it's an attempt to deny what's wrong with seeing the color of my skin. Is it all right for you to see me kind of pink? That's okay for me. I don't mind. And I suspect that you don't mind being seen the color you are. You have a right to be.
Shout outs to Wayne Fang.
Until people in this country and people in this world get it into their heads that the first modern human beings that evolved on this earth were black women. They evolved in sub-Saharan Africa about 280,000 years ago. And every human being on the face of the earth today has the memory of those black women's genetic structure in their genes. Now, we don't want to admit that, but that's the way it is. And as people moved farther and farther from the equator, their bodies produced less and less melanin, so their hair, their skin, and their eyes got lighter. As they moved into the east, they ate a lot of fish and a lot of vegetables, so their skin took on a different tone. I found that out when I was raising little kids. My husband worked in a supermarket. He was the head of the.
I don't know if Wing Fang left yet. I don't know if she left yet, but this very much so applies to the First Amendment. You have a woman who is a diversity educator, and she created this experiment back in the 60s. All right. And the thing about it is that through those times, racism and oppression was very high. And this is a white woman who's experimenting under her First Amendment as a teacher, okay, speaking, and also conducting a study at the same time. And, it turned out to be something that became nationwide over the years, and she became a person who has been known for this sole study that she created called Blue Eye, Brown Eye. So I really believe, in my opinion, that this pertains to the First Amendment because it's freedom of speech, first of all, and it's also she showing the world the underlying layers of racism by simply conducting a study with children. So I think it pertains to First Amendment. But shout outs to Wing Fang. I think Wing Fang left already. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. I don't think you read all of what I was sharing about the First Amendment. One of your mods think you have a free speech on this platform or any privately owned public platform. That's wild. Well, if you're speaking about YouTube, me having a platform on YouTube and being able to say what I want and not be reprimanded by them, yeah, that's definitely true. And if they want to cut any of my content, they can do it at any time without any question because this is their shit. They own this. I'm the middleman, okay? I'm the one that's doing all the work, bringing it to the platform. But this is their shit. This is their whole broadcast system.
Produce department. And they had lots of oranges that they couldn't sell, so we'd bring them home. And I was feeding my kids orange juice like you never saw in your life. They began to have an orange cast to their skin. I thought they had a liver problem. So I took her to the doctor, and she said, "What are you feeding these kids?" I said, "Well, lots of orange juice." She said, "Stop it if you want them to stop being orange." Now, if you think that skin color isn't anything other than the body's natural reaction to the natural environment, get over it.
So
Battery 90%.
all white people are racist. GPS Galaxy S10. Can they be reprogrammed?
Of course they can. Of course they can. Of course they can be. It's called education. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from the root dus, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people out of ignorance. Now, I know you can change them. The second year I did the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise in my classroom, it was filmed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They gave me a copy of that film. I showed it to my father. My father was about 59 years old at the time. My father was all his life.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the Resistance. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Very interesting night. Jane Elliot. A lot of different views from the chat, a lot of different opinions, and that's cool. We can all have different views. And we can all come back and meet again. Why not? So it's not about disagreeing with each other. It's about hating each other, in my opinion. It's about trying to, hey, let's see who can stay on top. Hey, man, I appreciate all of y'all. Thanks for hanging out. I'm getting tired. Shout outs to Aaron Morfeld. Peace, dub. Bam Von Taco Cat. Peace, dub. Karen Cantanella. Peace, homie. Perfect Sense, moderator of the stars. Peace, homie. Wayne Fang. Peace, homie. Mike Jones. Peace, dog. Bam Von Taco Cat. Peace, dog. Green Knight 7777. Peace, dog. John Dow. Peace, dog. Miss B. Peace, homie. Jules, peace. Peace, dog. Bully back audits. Peace, dog. Brian Barrett, peace, dog. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Y'all make sure y'all be safe out there. I'll be back probably tomorrow night with some more crazy stuff. With the exception of the night, this wasn't crazy. This was jewels being dropped, in my opinion. So, with the exception of the night, this was not crazy. Jane Elliot, I feel as though she was speaking crazy facts and delivered it to the utmost. Shout out to Aaron Morfeld. Thank you, bro. Cheers to you. I'm going to take y'all out again. The video I played earlier when I started off, little cop watch I did, lasted a few minutes, maybe about 10 minutes. And maybe about 2 minutes of interaction with me and a police officer. So I'll play that right now and take y'all out with that. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate y'all. We had a small group tonight, which is cool because we were looking at some heavy shit, and with a large group, it can get crazy. And not that I'm worried about it being crazy because I can handle any troll. I'm the troll exterminator. I care about trolls at the least. I do not care about them at all, okay? Actually, I invite them. But, yeah, we had a heavy night tonight, so everything stayed on the up and up. Nobody got out of line. It was cool. And that's how we wanted to be here. We want to talk about serious, deep shit and still be cool at the end of the day. And that's just how it's supposed to be, So let's keep it like that. Shout out to Brian Barrett. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Ryan Barrett in the house, my man. All right, so don't forget to hit the like if you didn't. If you'd like to become a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button. It's real simple.
It's a very psychological thing that's happening here.
That's right. That's right. So, before I forget, let me do this real quick. And then we out. I'm going to take y'all out with that video. Hit the likes! Everybody about to get killed out here. Like it for everybody.
Whatever he's telling you, if I wasn't here, he fucked around would have locked you up. Pretty much. Yeah, body cam on, officer? Okay. See how he's quiet? See how he's whispering to you? Because he's filtering lies to you. You don't want me to hear it. This is for your protection, bro. I'm from this neighborhood just like you are. He'll try to make you think that I'm doing this for likes and stuff on Facebook. No, it's to expose the police. To make sure they're going by protocol. That's what this is about. So anytime he's whispering to you because he don't want me to hear, is because he's trying to feed your brain with bullshit. And that's just the simple truth. Because he know I don't care about him, and he know I don't care about nobody else on the Boston PD. You know that, right, officer? He knows it. So whenever he has his voice real low talking to you, it's because he's trying to put some propaganda in your head. I cut that short, didn't I? Try again, officer.
I'm just a picture. Picture in the frame. Pause. I don't control the pictures. I don't control the colors.
I'm everywhere in public.